Hello everyone. Today I am here to start a new chapter, which is the very first chapter of your class 8 English textbook, Honeydew. And the name of the story is The Best Christmas Present in the World. Now, let it be presented this way that whenever there is a festival season, whenever it is a festive season, we all love to gift each other something, isn't it? We all love when someone gives us something. So, here the story is about the best Christmas present that probably the writer had achieved. And who is the writer? Who is the writer of the story? The writer here is Michael Morpurgo. And you can see on the screen his picture. So he was born on 5th November 1943 and he's around 76 years old. He's an English writer and some of his famous books are War Horse, The Butterfly Lion, and many others. So before I start the chapter, I would like to give a brief introduction to the story. Now, see here the main things, the main elements in the story are a roll top desk, a letter, and two characters, Jim and Connie. Okay, so the story is all about how the narrator finds a letter accidentally and how this letter leads on to the opening of new story. Okay, and this leads him to find out one person at the end of the story. Now let's start the story. The best Christmas present in the world. I spotted it in a junk shop in Bridport, a roll top desk. So the first line, the narrator says that he saw a roll top desk. Now you can see the picture below that there is a roll top desk. Okay, it's a kind of a piece of furniture and he saw it in a junk shop. Now you can see that there is a picture of a junk shop, the first picture, where all many things are put together which are put off for selling. Okay, so he spotted this roll top desk in Bridport and the seller, the shopkeeper said it was early 19th century and oak. So this particular roll top desk was made in and around the 19th century and the material was of oak. Means the roll top desk that was made was of the wood of the oak tree. So I had wanted one, but they were far too expensive. So the narrator was having the desire to own a roll top disc from many years, and he was not able to buy one because they were very expensive. They were too costly. So this was one in a bad condition. Now, when he saw this particular roll top disc in the junk shop, he saw that it was in a bad condition. It was not in a good condition. And why did he say so? Because it had many places where there were scorch marks. Now, what are scorch marks? Scorch marks means burn marks. It was burned in some places and it was not properly mended, it was not properly repaired. So he says this one was in a bad condition, the roll top in several pieces, one leg clumsily mended. Somewhere the leg was broken, it was not properly repaired. Somewhere there were scorch marks. It was going for very little money, but whatever the reason, it was being sold for very less amount of money. I thought I could restore it. So the narrator thinks that if I buy it, I can restore it, I can repair it very soon. It would be a risk, a challenge, but I had to have it. So it was a risk for the narrator because he was not sure whether he would be able to repair it in its earlier condition or not. It was a challenge for him as well. But somehow in his mind he had decided that I want to have this roll top disc. So I paid the man and brought it back to my workroom at the back of the garage. So finally, the narrator has bought the roll top disc, and he had put it in the back of the garage, in the place where generally cars and other automobiles are kept. I began work on it on Christmas Eve. So, as he had bought it, he wanted it to be repaired. He wanted it to be restored in its proper condition. I removed the roll top completely and pulled out the drawers. So now he had started his work. He removed the roll top completely and pulled out the drawers. He pulled out the drawers. He wanted to see if everything was correct or not. So he had opened up the pieces one by one. The veneer had lifted almost everywhere. Now, what is veneer? Veneer is a thin layer of plastic. It is a thin layer of element or material which is put to decorate the wood. You must have seen, you must have noticed in your houses, if you have tables, you will see that there is a decorative layer over the wood, especially on furniture that is made of wood. And it was almost lifted up, it was almost out of its place. It looked like water damage to me. So when he observed minutely, he saw that it was probably because water had been there for a long time and it had damaged the particular decorative material. Both fire and water had clearly taken their toll on this desk. So now the narrator has seen that fire and water, not only fire but also water, means earlier he had seen that there were burn marks, but now he saw that water had also equally damaged the desk. The last drawer was stuck fast. So there are many drawers in the, you can see here, there are many drawers in a roll top desk, and he found that one of the drawers was stuck, means it was jammed and it could not be opened. I tried all I could to ease it out gently. So he tried gently, he tried not to break it, he tried that it would open it in an easy way. But in the end, I used brute force. But he had no other choice, but he had to finally use force so that he could open it. I struck it sharply with the side of my fist, and the drawer flew open to reveal a shallow space underneath, a secret drawer. So now he had no other way to open it but to use his force. So he struck it, he shut it very hard, and finally the drawer was open. And what did he find there? He found a shallow space and a secret drawer. And not only that, but there was something in there. Something was lying in the drawer. I reached in and I took out a small black tin box. So he opened it. He saw that there was a small black tin box. A tin box was there. And what else? Sellotape to the top of it was a piece of lined notepaper. So there was a lined notepaper. Notepaper was there and it had been stuck to that particular box. And what was it written on it? What was written on it? It was written Jim's last letter, received January 25, 1915. So finally, a letter was out of the box. As similarly, you can see there is a letter, and he has found this letter. And what was written on it? That this letter had been received by someone on January 25th, 1915. 1915 means many, many years ago. To be buried with me when the time comes. And on it, it was also written that this letter may be buried with me when the time comes. So, whoever received this letter, the person had written that when I will die, when I will be no more, this letter may be buried with me, may come with me as I would go from this world. I knew as I did it that it was wrong of me to open the box. So he knew that, the narrator knew that he shouldn't have opened the box. But he was very curious. So it is a very common emotion that when you see something that is being done secretly, you are more curious to know what is actually going on, what is the matter. So the narrator could not contain his curiosity and he wanted to know what was inside it. So he did something. What did he? He opened the box. Inside the box, there was an envelope. Finally, he finds an envelope. And the address read, means the address. What is the address? The address is Mrs. Jim Macpherson, 12 Copper Beaches, Bridport, Dorset. So the address is written that this letter has been sent to the address of someone called Mrs. Jim Macpherson. So the narrator takes out the letter and unfolds it. He opens the letter. And what was written in pencil? It was written December 26, 1914. So this letter was written on December 26, 1914. And finally, the narrator has already done what he wanted to. He wanted to know what was inside the letter, so he has already opened the letter. And now, what does he find? He finds that this letter was written on the date of December 26, 1914, and it was addressed to a woman whose name is Mrs. Jim Macpherson. So now, let's find out what the content of the letter is. Dearest Connie, I write to you in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. So, here the person that the letter has been addressed is Connie. The name of the person is Connie, and the writer of the letter is saying that I am very happy. I am in a much happier mood. I am in a much happier place because I want to share something wonderful that has just happened, and I have to tell you it. We were all standing to in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning. It was crisp and quiet all about, as beautiful a morning as I have ever seen, as cold and frosty as a Christmas morning should be. So, what does the writer say? He says that all of them were standing in the ditches, in the trenches, okay, where trenches are generally places that are kept to keep the soldiers hidden. So probably they were in a war zone, they were fighting someone, and therefore they were hiding from the enemies. Now, in which month was this going on? It was going on in the month of December, when Christmas festival is celebrated. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it. I am ashamed to say is that Fritz began it. So here the writer says that there is one more character whose name is Fritz. So Fritz had started. Now what did he start? First someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. Then they were calling out to us from across no man's land. Happy Christmas, Tommy. Happy Christmas. So white flag. Generally, white flag is associated with peace. So someone had taken up that white flag and was waving from the opposite side of the trench, maybe the enemy. And they were calling out and saying that, Happy Christmas, everyone. Happy Christmas, Tommy. So all the people on this side were surprised, and some of them shouted, Same to you, Fritz, same to you. And everyone was soon wishing each other Merry Christmas. So someone also said, Don't shoot, lads. Keep your heads down. Maybe it's a trick. Somewhere still skeptical, somewhere still suspicious. Maybe they are trying to kill us, and they say that don't get up, just be hidden. Maybe they will shoot us. So one of the Germans. So now we know that while the writer of the letter is from England, is an English soldier, the other one is a German soldier. So the war was going between the Germans and the English people. So one of the Germans was waving a bottle above his head. It is Christmas Day, Tommy. We have schnapps. Schnapps is a German drink, okay, which is made from grain. So he says, It is Christmas Day. Come on, we should have some drink. We should make merriment. We should have fun. And we also have sausage. Don't you want to join us? We want to meet you. Don't you want to come? So by this time, there were dozens of them walking towards us across no man's land, and not a rifle between them. So finally, they had come up from the trenches. They had uh, left their hiding places and come out, and they wanted to be friends with the English people. So they says, "Come on, boys, what are you waiting for?" And then finally, what happened? Everyone came slowly nearer to each other, and they were making peace. So in the middle of war, both the English and the German soldiers were making peace. And the writer again, addressing Connie, says, "You cannot imagine my feelings. You cannot imagine how happy I am." And I looked into the eyes of the Swiss soldier. I looked into the eyes of the German soldier who had already outstretched his hand, who had already offered his hand. He said, "Hans Wolf, I am from Dusseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. Happy Christmas." So here see, there is a picture of a cello. So the German soldier's name is Hans Wolf, and he belongs from a place called Dusseldorf. And he also says that he plays the cello. So you can see the picture of the cello. Cello is a kind of a instrument. It is just like a large violin, and he says that I play this particular instrument in the orchestra. And finally he wishes happy Christmas. So now the narrator, the writer says, "My name is Captain Jim Macpherson, and happy Christmas to you too." And what is his job? He is a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. So you now know that Dorset is a particular place that is situated in the west of England. And what is his occupation? He is a school teacher. So the German soldier smiles and says, "Ah, Dorset. I know this place. I know it very well. We shared my rum ration and his excellent sausage." So they have already started sharing their food items. And they talked a lot. And how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English. So the German soldier, though he was a German, he was almost able to speak English very nicely. But it turned out he had never set foot in Dorset, never ever been to England. He had learned all he knew of England from school and from reading books in English. And what is his favorite? Who is his favorite writer? His favorite writer is Thomas Hardy, and his favorite book being Far from the Madding Crowd. So you can already see that there is a picture of the book as well. So Hans Wolf's favorite book is Far from the Madding Crowd, and it is written by the English writer Thomas Hardy. And what else is the characteristic of this person? He is also a person who plays or cello in the orchestra and also knows almost perfect English. So all they were talking about so many things. And in no man's land, both the Germans and the soldiers were having fun with each other. And these two particular people, Jim and Hans, they were talking about Bathsheba, Gabriel Oak, Sergeant Roy, and Dorset. So Hans Wolf had a wife and a son, and the son was born just 6 months ago. Means the son is very small, very young. Okay. As I looked about me, there were huddles of khaki and grey everywhere. So there were soldiers as well. And Hans Wolf and I shared that was left of your wonderful Christmas cake. So the wife means Connie Jim's wife had sent a Christmas cake. So Jim shares this with Hans Wolf. Okay, and he thought the marzipan was the best. So they were sharing food with each other. They were sharing their drinks, they were sharing their food, cake, marzipan, and many other things, and they were having fun. And then suddenly something happened. What happened? Someone brought out a football. Great coats were dumped in piles to make goalposts, and the next thing we knew, it was Stormy against Frisk. So, after all this merriment, after having all the food, suddenly somehow someone came up with a football and they started playing. They started having a football match with each other. Okay, so someone said, "I would prefer cricket." Then we Tommies who could be sure of winning. So you already know that England is a place where cricket was born. So the speaker says, the writer says that I would prefer cricket because if we played cricket, we would surely win. But then we Tommies could be sure of winning, isn't it? So they laugh at it and they watch the game. Fritz won 2 goals to 1. So the Germans win this game. And finally, what happens? The time comes and the game is finished. The food is finished. So Jim wishes Hans well and tells him that I hope he would set the family well and they would go back to their houses. So this is what every soldier wants on both sides. So finally they came up with the conclusion that no one wanted a war. No one wanted this kind of war. And if you remember that the First World War was fought in the year 1914 and began in the year 1914. And this story is also set up in a World War situation, in the First World War situation. So the story is trying to depict that no one wants a war, but everyone loves their country and they have no other way but to protect it. So on both sides they think that they want to kill each other, but actually they don't want to. They want to be with their family, they want to be in a peaceful situation. That night back in our dugouts we heard them singing a carol. So finally the Christmas eve has come come to an end, and they can hear that some are singing carols. Carols are songs, isn't it? So they were singing these songs, and finally the letter ends with saying that Christmas time next year, if there's a next time any Christmas eve and there is no war, I know that from what all that happened today, everything will be forever in my mind. We shall be together again soon, I am sure of it. So this person Jim hopes that the war will end and he will come back to his dearest Connie and they will live again together soon. So this is where the first and second part of your story ends. So finally what happens? What happens after